I would now like to introduce Peter Wintersgill, Chairman of the Indirect Tax Committee, to present a Brussels update on IUA discussions with EC on premium taxes.
Morning, everybody. First of all, the IUA, for those that aren't aware, the International Underwriters Association is the trade association for the London market subscription market. So basically, it's like the equivalent of the Lloyd's for a different trading market. All of the business on the London market is international, multi-jurisdictional insurance policies, general insurance. Therefore, premium taxes are fairly important. As well as being the indirect tax manager for QBE Insurance in Europe, I've been chairman of the IUA Indirect Tax Working Group for about 8.5 years, which is the same length of time I've been with QBE. I'd like to start off firstly by thanking FiscalReps for asking me to share what the IUA is doing at the moment with you all today, because basically it might impact upon their business focus in the future, hopefully. And secondly, a couple of apologies. Firstly, for those that attended the IUA Indirect Tax Seminar about a month ago, you're going to hear the same thing again today, so apologies to those that have attended both. And also apologies to the organisers today, because the last time I gave this speech 2 weeks ago in Amsterdam, although I was down to speak for a half an hour, it actually went on for an hour and a half. That was mainly because of the debate it generated. So can I ask that no questions are actually asked during my presentation, but if you want to grab me during the breakout sessions and the lunch, then I'm more than happy to share my experiences with you. Basically, what is the IUA doing, or what am I doing on behalf of the IUA along together with my working group members? Essentially, what kicked it all off were two things. Firstly was the Anderson's ECJ case, which had the potential of having a massive impact on the cost of EU insurers. And the second thing was, of course, the possibly ill-fated FS VAT review commenced by the Commission 6 years ago. The first thing, Anderson's, was basically we can't have these sort of events happening. We can't have massive unbudgeted costs suddenly being thrust upon the insurance market. Because basically we can't cope with it. And it's not fair. It's not the way the tax system is supposed to operate. Secondly, the VAT review gave the potential opportunity for the insurance market to let its voice be heard as to how they would like to see the tax system change for the future. And one of the things, of course, that we took to the European Commission as part of the consultation exercise was the administration of the insurance premium taxes. And basically, is there a means through the VAT review of changing that administration burden? The number of taxes that are involved, the administration of those taxes, the cost of administrating those taxes. We've got a VAT system. Is it just not possible to have VAT on insurance? We've got an exemption from VAT. How can you have an exemption and then allow member states to apply these premium taxes, sometimes at rates higher than the actual VAT rate in their country? So these were all questions that we put to the European Commission and to some of the national governments, and their response at the time was that VAT on insurance is simply not on the agenda. It's not something we're considering, which meant that the VAT review looked as if it was just going to be sort of tweaking at the edges. And the potential for another Anderson's case, which we've already got with Scandia in the elephant in the room at the moment, was just going to continue, and these potential increased costs for insurers would just continue. The other thing about the premium taxes, which is something which Mike and Joe alluded to in their presentations, was the age of the legislation. Some of these taxes in some of the countries date 50 years. When you think of how the insurance industry has developed over the last 50 years with multi-global policies, cross-border policies, the way that goods packages are now put together for insurance. You don't have motor insurance, property insurance, liability insurance for directors, liability insurance. They're all put together as a single package these days, and everything is sold as one single policy. So all the old rules no longer apply. Co-insurance arrangements probably did exist 50 years ago, but nothing to the extent they do today. So what we're trying to do is talk to the national governments and talk to the European Commission to sort of prod the national governments to try and make some sort of change in the simplification administration of these taxes. Because what we find when we talk to the national governments, and I'm sure that Mike and his colleagues find this as well, is even the people charged with looking after these taxes have very scant knowledge, and essentially they don't know how their taxes operate, and the answers they give you are the answers which maximise the income for their particular government. The other thing we find, which again has been alluded to already this morning, is that there is a hell of a lot of stick and very little carrot. We are non-domestic insurers paying taxes into their country. You'd think they'd be grateful, but it seems to be quite the opposite. And then we get circumstances like we've had this year, the introduction of the Hungarian tax, and apologies to the Hungarian representatives here today, but what a complete and utter mess that has been. Probably operates fantastically in Hungary, but for cross-border trade into Hungary, absolute nightmare. Croatia joined the EU on the 1st of July. Took 5 or 6 years preparation to build up to the big date when they acceded into the European Union. Premium taxes, let's start thinking around about August, September time when insurers from other countries start approaching us asking what they should do. Absolutely no credence taken whatsoever. And so it just goes on and on. The other thing about premium taxes, as we're all aware, because we all have to deal with them on a daily basis, is just the way that the information is gathered. Basically, they're not in the finance systems like VAT is. It's not dealt with normally by the finance departments. We're expecting very busy underwriters and people in the business format to actually have to deal with these taxes, which just isn't fair. They've got enough on their plate selling insurance without having to deal with the taxes that are involved, sometimes incredibly small amounts for some countries. And again, we look at the massive increase in Cyprus this year. And the other thing is the brokers. The brokers have always been very, very heavily involved on behalf of both the Lloyd's and London market in dealing with these taxes. It's not their responsibility, it's not their job, but they just get on with it on our behalf, for which we're all very grateful. Also, the systems cost, because it's not within the finance system, you're dealing with lots and lots of countries' taxes. If you're dealing with VAT, you're purely looking after your own domestic tax. So, as a UK insurer, all I ever get involved with VAT is purely the UK's VAT. That's not the same with premium tax, of course. I'm looking after dozens of countries' taxes. So every time there's a rate change, we have the cost of changing the systems to accommodate that change. And so it goes on and on. So there's the VAT cost as well, irrecoverable VAT. Again, I asked the question why. What is the purpose of the exemption for insurance? There's absolutely no reason that I can think of why there isn't VAT on insurance. The cost over Europe is probably several tens of billions of pounds to the insurance market. VAT in Europe is supposed to be tax neutral for business. The cost, as I've said, with things like Anderson's in the background and other changes which are occurring, the cost of VAT for insurers is just going up and up. The cost of fiscal representation, again, with all due respect to my host today, it isn't cheap to have your taxes managed in these countries, especially those countries which still insist upon fiscal representation. And in some countries, again, Cyprus is a prime example, the cost of looking after those taxes is far greater than the actual tax you're paying over. And then you've got countries like Portugal and Spain, where not only does the company have to register for fiscal representation, but you've got all the branches having to register as well. And now we've got Spanish regions wanting everybody to register. It just goes on and on. And one of the reasons, again, that we talk to the European Commission directly about these taxes, even though they're not commission taxes, is that we genuinely believe, as commercial general insurers, doing international policies, is that these taxes are actually an obstacle to cross-border trade, and I've yet to find anybody that denies that they're not. There is almost a sort of protectionism by the complexity of these taxes and the scope of it. I'm sure it's not deliberate, but it just does seem to, especially in, say, motor business, it seems almost impossible for somebody in a member state to write business into another member state. And again, since 1992, that simply shouldn't be happening. And the other thing is that we are out of sync with the rest of the world, and especially the large countries which deal with insurance when it comes to indirect taxes. Yes, other countries do have premium taxes, but a vast majority now do have VAT on insurance, and an increasing number, like Malaysia next year, for instance. And also, because of that, not only do they not have, excuse me, the insurance premium taxes, but they also don't have the cost of irrecoverable VAT. What have I done? Oh, sorry, can I? I think I pressed the wrong button.
I think we just need to go. Oh. There. Oh. Bottom right. Up a little bit. There.
Sorry. This is why I've gone for an hour and a half.
That one. There.
Thank you. Right, I'll press the right button this time. Right, so basically what the IUA would like, and may one day get, possibly in my lifetime, probably not, is VAT on insurance and no premium taxes. What's stopping us getting there? Firstly, the insurance industry is not joined up on this particular issue. Obviously, the life industry and the retail insurance industry aren't quite on all fours with the commercial sector. And also it's got considerable other priorities that exercises the minds of our executives rather than premium taxes, because basically, for instance, my CEO pays me a large amount of money to make sure that QBE is fully compliant with premium taxes. Why does he need them to go? So when you go and approach him and say, I want you lobbying the Treasury, I want you lobbying the European Commission about these premium taxes, he says no. So basically, there is a burden to get over there within the market. But there are moves afoot. Certainly Insurance Europe is interested in the concept of VAT on insurance, and even some of the life and retail companies are now coming around to that way of thinking. Politics will always drive this. VAT is a European Union tax, which is a requirement of being a member of the European Union, and it's administered sort of by the European Commission. These premium taxes are national taxes. All the revenue goes to whatever quantity required to the national government. They see it as their money, and nobody's going to take their money away from them, especially those people in Brussels. And that's the sort of reaction I've had from some very important people around Europe, notably one of our ex-chancellors who went on to do a good job as a prime minister once. So there is politics is always going to play a big part in this. And as it's already been alluded to, it's very, very easy money. Why would they give it up? And coming to that is the potential revenue loss. If all insurers suddenly got full VAT recovery and there was no premium tax incoming in, the effect upon the exchequer would be quite considerable. So again, it's going to be something that will happen slowly over time, if it ever happens at all. And the other thing, of course, has already been suggested by both Mike and by Joe, is the fact that these taxes aren't dying, far from it. They are growing like there's no tomorrow. More and more countries are introducing them. The rates are going up. You know, like the massive hike in the Netherlands this year. So, and then of course we've got the Czech Republic talking about potentially bringing it in. Discussing with Mike over dinner last night, in 2 years' time we might have a new premium tax north of the border, and so it goes on. So premium taxes certainly aren't dying, because it's good money and it's easy money, and politically it is sound money. That said, there are some positive influences, and I'm a cup half full person, and I always like to look at the positives. So when it comes to taxation in the insurance industry, I like to do so. As I've already stated, a lot of countries outside of Europe now do have VAT and GST systems. Yes, some of them have premium taxes as well. In fact, quite a few do, but some of them are purely VAT. China, introducing VAT from 2015, are thinking about VAT on the finance services, and a few of us are meeting delegates from the Chinese government on Monday to discuss the application of VAT in the finance sector in Europe and the UK with them. Canada, apparently clean sheet of paper, they're reviewing the whole of the VAT system which Canada currently has, again for the whole of the financial services industry, so that's banks as well as the insurance industry. And again, one of the options they're looking at is introducing VAT. And it's on that background, especially the potential Canadian regime change, which the European Commission is actually looking at, and they're seeing Canada as being a test case, because they may be the only country which may potentially change from exempt to taxable. And the rumours are that within Brussels, if Canada does go ahead and it is a success, then it's something which the European Commission might take on board. The other thing is that, as I've suggested, any change in the insurance taxation regime will not be done overnight. It will take years to introduce. It will be discussed considerably for a very long time, and then the legislation will be enacted again at some time in the future after those negotiations have been completed. We're all hoping that the recession, which has hit Europe so badly over the last 7 years, is starting to dissipate, is starting to withdraw, and things may get better, and that may prompt changes to come about. Another area is, again, something that's been alluded to this morning by Joe, is the increasing conflict between member states about the application of the taxes. Even though these are national taxes, we've seen 2 cases now being taken to the European Court because of disputes, and that might actually escalate as governments become more proactive on cross-border insurance tax application. And it may be that those disputes, those conflicts between member states might be a catalyst for the European Commission to actually step in and take some action to try and harmonise and simplify the taxes and make the rules a little bit more consistent across the piece. Because at the end of the day, that's really what we're after. The other thing, of course, is the potentially failed VAT review. It's gone on for 6 years. Nothing's happened for the last 2 years. Nothing is likely to happen until the new commission is elected in 2015, or that's what we're being told. But something has got to happen. There was a reason for that review and consultation taking place in the first place. The commission said that the status quo is not an option. Something has to happen. The European Union's financial services industry has got to become more competitive with its competitors outside, and tax is a burden to that industry. Something has to happen. Nothing's happened at all, and is unlikely to. So it is possible that the new commission will look at this whole sphere anew and actually propose some fairly dramatic changes. We can but hope. I can but hope. We can but hope. So what's the IUA doing? The main thing really is lobbying, educating, not just the Commission but also national governments. yes, it's very good to be compliant, and I genuinely applaud FiscalReps for going around to these member states' governments and actually getting them to focus on the tax, how it applies, how it should apply, how they want it to apply. Because at the end of the day, until changes occur, we have all got to be very compliant. We're the insurance industry. You can't get more compliant than the insurance industry. So we all do what we can. But we do need some assistance at all as well. It really is mind-numbingly difficult at the moment to be fully compliant in 28 countries. So we go along to the European Commission, usually mob-handed, 3 or 4 of us go across, and the way we are tackling it at the moment, or have done in the 3 or 4 meetings we've had, is that we not only see people from the Tax Directorate, but we also invite along members from the Single Market Directorate. So again, we're stressing to them the constraints and obstacles to trade which these taxes actually incur for insurers, and to try and get them interested in sort of having some sort of simplification and harmonisation. And the other thing is that the European Commission representatives in the Tax Directorate, it's broken into 2. There's a team, very large team, which looks after VAT. There's a very much smaller team of about 25 people that looks after every other tax within Europe. And those 25 people have been given the task of implementing FTT. So they've been rather busy over the last couple of years. So even getting to meet these people is quite an achievement to discuss our concerns with them. But they're interested. They are interested. They do take on board what they're saying. One of the things which they don't want to get involved in is individual country issues. So if we've got a particular gripe about a certain aspect of taxation in a particular country, they're not interested at all in looking into that. But what they have told us to do is to make a formal complaint to the Commission, and then they will take up the matter with that individual member state. So we, the IUA, have now made 2 formal complaints, one against Italy, sorry, and one against Spain, sorry, but you deserve it. Not the greatest of success, I must admit, but at least when we go and see the Commission, when the Commission are invited to conference, etc., they're not saying to us anymore, well, we don't think there's a problem because nobody ever approaches us, nobody ever complains about these taxes. We're actually going there in their face and saying something's got to change. We're trying to talk to more and more revenue authorities about possibly changing their regimes, have a little bit more consideration for cross-border insurers, multi-jurisdictional insurers, co-insurers. Just take us into account when they're making their legislation, especially the new countries introducing it, please Hungary, that there are alternatives. There are countries out there, in UK, I must take my hat off when it comes to insurance premium taxes, the UK are very good. So countries that still have stamp duties instead of premium taxes, can you just change it? Can we have premium taxes rather than stamp duties? So all in all, what we're trying to do is obtain very small simplifications, little victories here and there to try and get the administration simplification that we're yearning for. The last time we met the Commission was June this year, and we had an agenda of 4 separate items. The first one was fiscal representation. Despite the ECJ case regarding the Kingdom of Belgium 6 years ago now, we still have 9 countries which have a premium tax regime which require fiscal representation, and it's a requirement, so you have to have it. So even though several countries like the UK, France, Netherlands, Belgium have done away with fiscal representation, there's still 9 countries out there which require it. And so we're saying, can you take action against these countries? And to our surprise, the Commission said we have taken action. There's actually a pending European court case been taken against Spain to try and abolish fiscal representation. That was supposed to be heard in 2013, but we're at the end of November and I've not heard any progress on that. So I think it may have slipped a bit. But hopefully that will achieve one of the formal complaints we made against fiscal representation. The complaint we made was actually against the requirement for branches to be separately registered, but if we can get rid of fiscal representation as a legal requirement across the piece, that would be wonderful. Administration and simplification. One of the things which really irritates me is those countries which have several taxes is that you have to declare the taxes and pay the taxes to various different authorities. Surely it's not beyond the wit of man that cross-border trade, you just make the one declaration, perhaps split into different taxes and make one payment, and then they can divvy out the tax as they see fit. De minimis limits. It does create another layer of complication if you have de minimis limits, but some of the amounts that I have to deal with on a daily basis for certain countries really does need to be seen to be believed, don't they, Steve? Because you see them. I've had an email today from my Madrid office to say that we've had a refund from the Consortio of €4.57. The stamp probably costs more. And the other thing is, one of the things I keep asking for when I go and see these member states is, please can we have less stick and more carrot? Some of the penalties for making errors for these really complex taxes is a little bit ludicrous. Sorry, Italy. You know, please encourage us to declare your taxes and pay the taxes. I could go on for hours about my experience of trying to submit electronic returns to Slovenia at the moment. It's just mind-bogglingly difficult. All I'm doing is trying to pay them some tax. Co-insurance. There is no set format anywhere in Europe. They've all got their different rules. Is it the lead that declares the taxes? Is it each individual co-insurer that pays the taxes? Most countries shrug their shoulders and say, do whatever you want, do what's best for you, which is good to some extent, but doesn't really work. Let's have some guidance. Let's have some rules across the European Union as to how these taxes should be administered. It would make our life a lot simpler. Where am I? Oh, yes. Another bugbear is double taxation. It's one of those areas which every time we go and see the European Commission, they ask for instances, and it's very difficult because the London market and the Lloyd's market know that double taxation exists. They know it's out there technically and legally, but nobody actually bothers about it. Basically, we declare the tax where we believe it should be declared under the rules which we believe should apply. So things like bloodstock industry, we normally go as it's a financial loss, and therefore we look at where the owner of the horse is rather than where the horse exists or is resident, if horses can ever be resident. Marine insurance is a fantastic example. Malta looks at where the owner is resident. Germany looks at the flag of the vessel, and most other countries look at the port of registry. So you could actually have a case where you've got a Maltese owner with a German flag registered in the Netherlands, where the rate of tax would actually be, let me get this right, 50%, 21 plus 19 plus 10. So you could actually have 50% tax on a marine insurance. As I say, we wouldn't do that. We'd just apply the where the vessel is registered, so we'd just pay the 21%, and I'm sure Lloyd's is the same. The final thing, which actually we took to them, but which they promoted as a possible way forward, is a Fiscalis event. Now, these are non-decision-making, EC-funded events where basically representatives from finance ministries across Europe get together and basically have a talking shop, explore and discuss best practice, and try and get some accommodation. And obviously, trade bodies are invited to that, and any other parties. And basically, it's to seek common goals. And that's really what we're after at this stage, is to have some sort of harmonisation. So Basically, we're looking for a sponsor for that event. HMRC are quite supportive, but say in the current political climate, it's probably not best if the UK is seen to promote such an event. So we're looking at other countries and asking other countries to help us promote it. And it's something that the European Commission have said that they would back wholeheartedly and would provide the funds for. So it's one way of going forward. The final thing is, in conjunction with one of the big four firms, you may have seen the survey which has been distributed by the IUA and others recently, goes into far greater detail to give us the ammunition that when we're talking to national governments and to the European Commission, we have a little bit more backing as to the arguments that we're putting forward. And the whole purpose of that survey is to increase awareness not only within the insurance industry but outside of the insurance industry. So we've actually taken the survey to the risk managers through FIRMA, through AIRMIC, because at the end of the day we administer these taxes, which is a complete headache, but the £50 billion worth of income, a lot of that comes from businesses. And they're also interested in the concept of doing away with premium taxes and having VAT as a substitute. So part of this rollout of this survey was to look at that. We want actual examples of double taxation where people are affected. We want examples of where these premium taxes do act as an obstacle to trade. It's all very well me going across the European Commission and saying it's happening, but it would be really good to have prime examples to take to them, to get it up the agenda a little bit more than it is. We've got a very low starting point with the European Commission, and we're hoping that it will increase over time. So if you haven't seen the survey, please contact me, and I will make sure that one gets to you. And I would really request everybody spends a bit of time in filling it in and completing it. And that's all I've got to say. As I say, I will answer any questions, any discussions, and most importantly, I'd like to hear your views as to what the IUA is doing in this area and how supportive or not you are of our initiative. Thank you very much.